You know, on one hand, I kind of want to ask you what your initial reaction was to this report, Dennis, but I also want to get your thoughts here on the process by which something like this would have to go through even for this to happen. It's another interesting part of this report was the pushback you got even within the Republican Party. You had some people very much in favor of this and some people, even on the Republican Party, who were very, very much openly against this.
Well, sure. Thanks for having me on. As to my reaction, look, nobody should be surprised that if Trump becomes president, he's going to try and bend every part of the government to his will. He's made it clear that he may change the civil service rules so that everybody who works in the government basically swears an oath to him, not the Constitution. It should be no surprise that he's going to try and get the people at the Fed, including the chair, to do his bidding. And in fact, during his first term, you'll remember, and you did some terrific reporting at the time, about how Trump actually considered firing Powell, his own appointee at the time, and that is basically pushed back behind the scenes by many senators, including Republican senators, that he should not do that and they would not support him. It's not surprising also to see senators, Republicans and Democrats pushing back against this, because the concern is that if interest rates are essentially set politically, leaving aside the very good points my friend Andrew Levin just made about the difficulty of changing the law and things like that, if the president were able to politicize monetary policy decisions, interest rate decisions, then it's likely that interest rates would be higher, and therefore the implications for the economy, financial stability, and frankly, Main Street Americans wanting a mortgage or buying a car or their credit card rates would probably be substantially higher, because investors want to get paid for the risk that the interest rates would be subject to the whims of politics, whether it's Trump or the next guy or whoever it is.
Dennis, is that part about the higher rates, is that part true necessarily? Because you have heard Donald Trump really favoring low interest rates here. And is there a chance here that instead what you end up with is a perennially low interest rate environment?
Well, only time would tell, although I think that sooner or later, if you have a perennially low interest rate environment, unless you repeal the business cycle, it's going to tend to result in greater liquidity than you otherwise would have. You'd have more dollars in the system. You would, at least according to basic economics, which are not always right, you're going to have inflation with too many dollars chasing too few things. And if you have inflation and you keep your rates low, which is to say you keep flooding the system with liquidity and cash at low rates, something's got to give. And probably what's going to give is going to be higher inflation and higher for longer. And investors are going to want to get a return for that risk, and they're not going to like it. There's something else that we should think about, though, and could get lost in this, which is there is a very good argument that the Fed needs to be more accountable, needs to be more transparent, and needs to be more responsive to ensure that it actually discharges its mission. We're talking about monetary policy. They're supposed to be focused on price stability and full employment. Price stability gets a lot of attention. Full employment, not so much. It's usually sacrificed on the altar of inflation.
Right, Dennis, unfortunately running up against the clock. Have to leave it there. Really appreciate your time. Our thanks, of course, to Dennis Kelleher of Better Markets. Now, still ahead, what investors need